Happy Tuesday, everybody. Welcome into another edition of GC Live, Talking Tuesday Nights. He's Intern Joe. I'm Mike Yuba. We're bringing this show to you at 5 o'clock, a very special edition of GC Live for no real special reason other than the fact that Shane Beamer is actually speaking at 6 o'clock, and we will keep things rolling. So we're moving the show up an hour. So if you're interested in catching what Shane Beamer has to say, head on over to Backstreet Grill. I bet you that place is going to be absolutely packed. I'm going to be heading there shortly. If you can't go there tonight, you can listen to what Beamer has to say on 107.5 The Game. But from having an opportunity to listen to him, I don't know, about 3.5 hours ago, because he met with the local media today at 1:30, unless someone slipped on an ice cube, and we pray to God that didn't happen, I don't know what else he's going to really be able to share. Since practice was first thing this morning, then he met with the media, and then he'll be going to Backstreet Grill tonight. Patrick Davis, Gamecock alum, Camden native, as well as the creator of a very popular USC song, Big Ol' Cock. He'll be joining us momentarily to talk about his seventh annual Thanksgiving weekend Toys for Tots show that is happening this Friday night at the Senate. If you have not gone before, let me tell you, this thing is just absolutely electric, especially when South Carolina is hosting Clemson, because he does it every year. But the big thing with South Carolina playing Clemson at home, I can tell you from 2 years ago, a bunch of former Gamecocks were there, and it was electric. You'll also have an opportunity to win some VIP tickets where you can go to the show a little bit earlier, mingle with some of these former Gamecocks, as well as enjoy a couple adult beverages for free. So we'll talk about that for our Gamecock Central subscribers. All right. We did all the housekeeping notes. Let's just get right into it, Intern Joe.
Yeah.
Today, we heard from the players. We heard from Beamer. They try to downplay things a little bit by saying it's just another game, but at the same time, too, they know it. We know it. Everyone knows it. When you're playing Clemson in this state, this game is everything, especially when it comes to football.
Yeah, Mike, I mean, it's rivalry week. Happy rivalry week to all those watching. It's finally here. And, you know, from what I gathered from the pressers today, obviously I'm back home, but I'm watching from afar. What I gathered is they're locked in, man. They're ready to go. You know, business as usual. They're trying not to get overhyped for it, because for a game like this, you certainly can very easily. Big night game at home, rivalry week, like I said. But these guys are locked in, Mike, trying to treat it as every other week, because, again, if you let yourself get overhyped for a game like this, you'll come out flat and beat yourself up and lose this football game. So, I mean, they seem locked in, dialed, just ready to go, really ready to go, and ready to enjoy some, you know, food on Thanksgiving, some stuffing, if you will, and get things moving.
Yeah, there's a couple things that stood out to me today, and I know you and I had an opportunity to talk about some of those things.
Yeah.
A couple hours ago. But look, when we went into today's press conference, I get it that the storyline itself of South Carolina playing Clemson, that's going to trump everything. I understand that. Having said all of that, there were some storylines heading into today based on some stories that came out last night, information that came out last night. And I think first and foremost, the thing that stood out to me was what Shane Beamer had to say about Juice Wells. Now, if you missed everything, we'll get you caught up. Juice Wells took to social media last night on X, and I'll try to bring that up for you guys so you can see what Juice Wells tweeted or X'd. I mean, I don't know exactly what they're calling it these days.
Still Twitter.com, technically.
There you go.
I'm still on the Twitter wave until Elon can figure that out. It's
all right. So, as I try to bring up the right screen, here's what Juice Wells had to say. Okay, Juice Wells said last night at 8:57, clearing the air. I'm not playing and not holding out for the NFL draft. I'll be back next year. Now, having said all of that, sometimes you want further clarity, right? And I'm not trying to be a wise guy, or, you know, but we see that, okay, I'm not playing. Like, you're not playing around. Like, I'm not trying to be like the old guy in the room here, but I think you read that. You just want to make sure. So today, and this is what you and I were talking about before we hopped on, you have to ask the A to B question. Just like when I asked Spencer Rattler the A-to-B question about, hey, are you thinking about coming back next season? Right? I mean, is it a done deal? You announced that you are accepting your invite to go play in the Senior Bowl. But does that mean that it's a done deal? Because, and I can think of two examples right off the top from Clemson last year where players accepted their invite to the Senior Bowl, but then they decided to come back and play at Clemson. And I'm not saying those are the only two examples that it's ever happened with. But again, bringing those examples up, not to say, okay, I'm not trying to mislead anybody, and we'll listen to Spencer in a little bit, but I also think it's important just to share simply because this is something that I think some people just want to know for certain, like, hey, is that even allowed? Yes, it is allowed. Having said all that, let's get into what Shane Beamer had to say about Juice Wells when asked today about his status, if he had a chance to talk with him at all before that tweet went out. And this is what Shane Beamer had to say. So why don't you take a listen, then we will pick things up on the other side. Shane, going on from that, I'm not sure if you were aware of the tweet or X last night from Juice Wells sharing something along the lines that, he'll be back next year, not playing. I know it might sound like a dumb question, but just because of the way it was worded, just for clarification purposes, did Juice talk with you at all about not playing this weekend, or is he one of those players that could be playing this weekend as well?
I wouldn't count on it. If Juice came to me today after this press conference and said he wanted to play this week, it wouldn't shock me. I'm not counting on that happening though, Mike. I met with Juice a couple times last week and over the weekend or after the game as well. So that the post that he had on X last night didn't surprise me as far as what he announced. Did not anticipate him playing this week, but again, if Juice decides he's in the right frame of mind and feels good physically and he wants to, then great, but we're not counting on that.
So I'm going to stop it right there. Let's going to have our quick thoughts, Joe. I'll let you go first, and I have some thoughts on this. You hear that. You see the tweet last night from Juice. What's just your initial takeaway on top of just everything else? Yeah. As far as this being a story now for the last couple of weeks, Shane Beamer saying for the last couple of weeks, hey, Juice isn't officially done yet. Juice isn't done yet. And then we get the tweet last night from Juice and then that statement from Beamer today.
Yeah, I mean, I think Juice is done. I don't think he's going to play this week. I think, he just made the decision that he's going to channel all of this, kind of pent up frustration and what he's been, struggling with being off the field and with this foot injury into next year. I think he just made, the choice in his mind, I'm coming back, just make that decision, still, staying hungry and just, being there, being ready to, go after it next year. I think, he wants to play this week, but he knows that if he goes out there and tries, to do too much, he could re-aggravate it and just, be worse for the rest of the year. Or for the part of next year too, hurt himself for the offseason and whatnot. So, I think this is a business decision at the end of the day.
Our guest, Patrick Davis, just hopped on. We're going to get to Patrick shortly. So, Patrick, just hold tight with us. I'm just having my quick thought on this Juice Wells situation. Here's my thought, okay? And this is based on some things I've been able to gather over the last couple of weeks, but especially, I'd say, over the last 12 to 24 hours. And I say 24 hours because this has happened even before Juice Wells put that tweet out last night. Juice has been medically cleared. Juice is ready to go. If Juice wants to play in this game, he can. That is what I've been told. Having said all of that, at the end of the day, it comes down to Juice. Now, that's not saying that, Mike's saying that he's soft. Mike's saying, no. Bottom line is this is a young man who a couple weeks ago, he re-aggravated that injury, which has prevented him from playing for the majority of the year. So when you deal with that, it's not just, okay, is he physically ready to come back? You have to overcome some of these mental hurdles too, especially when it comes to a lower body injury. But on top of that, knowing too, that if he does play, based on some of the information that I've been told and I've been able to gather over the last couple of days, he's not at 100% right now. So if he's not at 100%, number one, and number two, he's dealing with a pain tolerance where it's like, okay, how much pain am I going to be able to play through? That's something that a player has to ultimately decide.
Medically
So-
cleared in 100%.
Correct.
Definitely.
So I say all that. I say all of that to say when we've heard Shane Beamer over the last couple of weeks saying, hey, Juice Wells is not done yet. Juice Wells isn't done yet. It's not just doing gamesmanship. A coach just trying to throw that out there so the other teams have to prepare. No. It's coming down to the fact that Juice could play, but we don't know how someone's body's going to heal, number one, and number two, how much pain they're going to be able to play through. So that's the reason why. That's the reason why everything has played out the way that it has and why Shane Beamer addressed the answer the way that he did today. But just wanted to kind of clear the air a little bit. Speaking about clearing the air with some of just things and maybe some musical things that we could talk about is our good friend Patrick Davis. PD, how you doing, buddy?
I'm good, brother. I'm good. How y'all doing? Y'all down there figuring out all the Gamecocks problems?
Oh,
Trying
yeah,
to.
man.
Trying our best.
It's been good though. The past few weeks have been fun.
They have been fun. I mean, it's crazy what happens, what winning can do. And PD, I don't know if you've had a chance to meet our coworker, Intern Joe. Intern Joe with us. I don't know if this is the
Joe?
first
How you
time you
doing,
guys
brother?
have met.
Well, yeah, I think we've met in passing at a couple kickoff parties, but yes.
Oh, well,
formally,
nice to see you, man.
yeah,
Nice to see
yeah.
you here. I'm on the road right now, so I'm calling in from an Airbnb actually.
Nice.
So yeah, pretty amazing spot I'm at here.
Well, PD, Intern Joe is next level. I mean, shoot, I'm wearing his shirt. I mean, how many interns have their own merch? So,
Wow.
know.
You're learning from Uva. Next thing you know, you're gonna have a biscuit.
Absolutely, for real. We've been waiting on the Intern Joe biscuit for a while now, so working on that still.
Well, it takes some time. And speaking about things that have took some time, this will be your 7th year doing your annual Thanksgiving weekend Toys for Tot show. And the reason I say it takes some time is because when you think of events that give back to the community, sometimes it takes a couple of years to really be able to get people to buy into it. But for this thing keeps happening. And right from the jump, I felt like you guys were generating so many toys to be able to help out and give them back to people throughout South Carolina, kids that needed them. But I say that because even though it had a hot start early on, Patrick, it continues to grow year after year. And for an event that takes place the night before the USC Clemson game, especially when you're playing a home game, we've seen so many former Gamecocks come out to support you, and not just Gamecock athletes, but fans as well. You'll be doing this again this weekend at the Senate. Just tell me, how excited are you? Number one. Number two, why Gamecock fans, if they haven't purchased a ticket yet, why they should before Friday night?
Well, I always say the same thing about this particular show. It really is one of my favorite nights of the year. We're fortunate enough to get to play a lot of shows. I play all over, and I do a lot of things that are a lot of fun. But this particular show is just it's good for the soul. We not only have an incredible show for everybody, that it's also just kind of the spectacle of all of the toys on the stage. We put all the toys, everybody brings their toys with them, and what's happened now is the first year we probably had 50 or 100 toys on the stage, and now there's literally 500,000 toys on the stage, because everybody kind of bought into the idea of like, wow, well, you're coming to a concert and that's great, you buy a ticket for that, but the real thing is the thing that's going to make it so special is all those toys, and they're all going to kids that are in need, and make sure that their holiday season is a little brighter because of that. And that, yeah, there you go. That's one of the we get there really early. I mean, my wife and I, really my wife Lauren, she's amazing with this. She decorates the entire stage, and it feels like Christmas. And then we put Christmas trees up there, and and when the toys are up there, it's really a lot of fun, because we can't move on stage. Like we can't move. We're literally just standing there, and usually we've got this giant stage, but that's what we want. We want there to be 4 bikes behind, the drummer, and we want there to be, these giant, teddy bears and I don't know, Barbie dolls and cars and footballs. And it really is a special evening. And I thank everyone that's come out to support it. We have some folks that, they buy 50 tickets. Their Thanksgiving happens, and they know that the day after, every year, that entire family that was at Thanksgiving is coming to this show. So it's pretty cool.
And I just shared the link for anyone that is interested in buying one of these tickets, going out there, because it supports a tremendous cause. And if you go to, bring a toy. I mean, that's what it comes down to, right? Bring a toy, help out. But here's the other thing too. Just talked with Wes. And Patrick has been gracious enough to give a couple VIP tickets to Gamecock Central. So if you're a GC subscriber, head on over to Gamecock Central. We're going to have a link up. You can be able to win a VIP ticket. And correct me if I'm wrong, Patrick, that allows you to get in there early, have a couple
Yeah,
of
you
adult
get in
beverages
early.
on the house.
Yeah, get in early, and we have we just kind of all hang out together early, and like I said, it's kind of a family atmosphere. It's Thanksgiving weekend, it's Clemson Carolina weekend, so and we invite everybody. I mean, I know most Gamecock fans are watching this, but if you got like somebody in the family that you know is a black sheep and they're a Clemson fan, they can come too. But it's we the VIP ticket allows you to come in early, and we have some we do a specialty cocktail that's on the house for that. The rest of it's cash bar, but you can have the specialty cocktail, and we do that with our Firefly friends, and then there's some seats and stuff like that. But it's a lot of fun, and it's hard to beat it. It really is an incredible. I keep saying the same thing, but it's one of my favorite. I can tell from my smile. It puts me in the spirit. I'm like, all right, Christmas is Christmas time. I can listen to Mariah Carey sing for the next month. It's going to be okay because I'm gonna, I've got this going on.
Let's talk some football, because one of the guys that you sing about in your song Big Ol' Cock that I know so many Gamecock fans enjoy, and you'll be able to have a chance to listen to it, I'm sure, on Friday night, is Steve Tannehill.
Oh,
and Tannehill was one of the best you ever saw, as you say in that song. But you've had a chance to see Spencer Rattler now for the last 2 years. He has an opportunity to not only cap off what has been an incredible November, but it will likely be his final game. I know he hinted today, and we're going to talk about it once we get off with you, that, okay, I have an extra year of eligibility next year. But having said all that, if he beats Clemson, that'll be 2 straight years. He has 2 years here, and you beat Clemson on top of everything else that he's been able to accomplish. He has a chance to perhaps finish with the most passing yards in a season. They go to a bowl game and all that. We'll deal with the stats later. But what would it mean as a Gamecock fan to see this guy go out there to cap off what has been an incredible career already in 2 years? I mean, shoot, he just leapfrogged Connor Shaw for the most passing yards in a season. I mean, in a career. He's only done it in 2 years, but he has a chance to beat Clemson in back-to-back years.
I mean, I think all of us out there listening, or all of us Gamecock fans, we can probably just imagine where we would be without Spencer Rattler for the past 2 years. I mean, it was a coup that Shane and the staff were able to bring him in. It definitely, the past 2 years have not been easy. But we're definitely on an upward trajectory. Even with this year being, like, you could say it's a little bit down in terms of schedule. I mean, we've had decimated by injuries. Our schedule is always just bonkers. But without Spencer Rattler, just imagine what would be going on right now. So I feel like Spencer. I have always said that I think 2026, 2027 are going to kind of be those Gamecock years where we're going to get to where we should be with what Shane and the staff are doing with recruiting and the overall feeling of the I guess the team. I really hope that we remember Spencer Rattler for what he's meant to not just these 2 years, but I think to the next decade of Gamecock football, because without him, I don't think those recruits that we're landing are coming. I don't think, and it's nothing against any of the players that are there today. It's nothing against the coaches. It's just that you need someone who is a that caliber of player, which is we don't have anybody else that's ever played the position of quarterback for the University of South Carolina that's even close to what Spencer Rattler is in terms of being a quarterback that you can, when you watch the NFL on Sundays, he fits the mold. Like, he looks like a player that could play on one of those teams. He's not as big as like Dak Prescott, or he's not quite as mobile as Russell Wilson, but he's somewhere in between those guys. I mean, like, he's got the arm strength, he's got everything. So I think it would be amazing if he came back for another year. But the odds of that happening, and I will say, the NIL, for all the things that we don't like about it, the NIL would be the only reason that he would come back for another year. If he wasn't going to get drafted where he thought he was going to get drafted, and he's going to make $1 million playing college, I mean, maybe, who knows? So I think we all have to just, give a big round of applause to what he's meant to this program. And I do feel like there's a really good chance that we hang tough with Clemson on Saturday night. And if the atmosphere of Williams-Brice is what it should be, we could really win that game. I mean, like, I think that's a big determining factor in whether or not we are able to pull that off. I think with the Kentucky game, I wasn't lucky enough to be in town, but I watched it on television, and the vibe of the stadium, you could tell that people were really losing their mind. And that night game, I mean, having the ability to drink all day, I mean, come on, people were losing their mind, you know, and that's where I think this is really going to. You're absolutely right. If he could beat Clemson 2 years in a row, I think he already goes down as probably. I think if he would play 4 years, he'd be the greatest. It wouldn't be a question who the best quarterback in South Carolina was. But I think, you know, I think Connor, and then, you know, I think then and Tannehill had some amazing moments, but I think Spencer as a total package is up there with, in my opinion, Connor would be the man. And I think Spencer probably has a better arm and, you know, that stuff. So, but he just didn't have Marcus Lattimore behind him.
You mentioned NIL, and I think it's just a great reminder. I'm not just saying this to blow smoke up your backside or make you blush, but we talked about it before last year, Gator Bowl. You and I were talking about it. You said, Mike, we got to do something. There's no events going on.
Yeah.
But you thought of the idea of being able to have a concert, and not just the concert for Gamecock fans. That benefited NIL. You've been able to learn a little bit more about it. I'm not saying that you have your PhD in it. I think none of us really do. But because we're all still figuring out the gray area that when it comes to NIL. But, man, I mean, you mentioned a guy like Spencer Rattler, and, I mean, Juice Wells announced last night that he's coming back next season. NIL plays an important part. I mean, what would you just tell Gamecock fans about just the importance of it? Because you look at these other programs, and whether you like it or not, okay, it's not about if you like NIL or not. It is not going anywhere anytime soon. What would you just tell Gamecock fans as far as being a contributor, even if they're not crazy about the idea of amateur athletes getting paid?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just part of it. It's become a thing where I completely understand the idea that, you know, it takes away, it makes it they're paid to play, but man, we need we're gonna have to compete, and all the other teams are doing it, and honestly, they have larger coffers. You know, they got bigger bankrolls, so we're gonna have to kind of come together. I think power in numbers for us, and I've actually been on the kind of on the wire with some folks at USC about some ideas of how to facilitate some monies coming in. And I think they are really working very, very hard. I know that there's a number of groups out there, you know, Garnet Trust and some other guys that are trying to piece it all together. And it is just part of it. Love it or hate it. It's where we are right now. I think there will be some rules, hopefully, that are made that make it to where, you know, it's kind of crazy with this Wild West thing. Even someone who's on the road all the time playing shows, I still can tune in and see. I'm like, what the hell? Like, this guy just played here, and now he's playing here, and now he's playing here. I mean, that kind of stuff kind of has to be addressed. But I look, man, I don't songwriters, we don't make what we're supposed. We feel like people steal from us all the time, and I kind of feel for the kids. You know, we were all athletes. I saw you posting about 10 years ago. You played your last game. You know, I mean, maybe you got one more game in you. We don't know.
Yeah, a lot of people really want an undersized 5'9" in cleats and 170 pounds soaking wet white cornerback. You know, everything high demand for that.
Yeah, but I do think that's it's very important that these kids don't. When I was in college at South Carolina, I was friends with a lot of the athletes, and you know, and it's not like they struggled necessarily, all of them, but there were some of them that, you know, they go play in front of 80,000 people on Saturday night, and then they couldn't take their girlfriend to dinner. That seems wrong. And so for me, I'm all about. I don't care if they get paid. It doesn't matter to me. And actually, I even said this. I said if Spencer Rattler wasn't getting paid, I'm not saying this is his character. I'm just using him as an example. When we were 2-5. Or 2-6, whatever I don't know if he was going to go pro. If he wasn't getting paid to play, he might be like, I'm out. I'll still make it. I'm going to get drafted. You know, I mean, like, I think there's a thing there that I'm not saying that's him. You know, I'm not using him. Maybe he's a bad example because maybe he would play anyway. But there are definitely players out there that would sit out. And you know, and I think that the NIL makes it to where, you know, like, well, it does give a little bit of professionalism to a you know, an amateur sport. But we all know the truth, boys. It ain't been amateur for a long time.
No, and I'll say this before we wrap things up, Patrick, with you, that I've always thought back to this when I was in college. Yes, you sign up to be a student athlete. No question about it. No question about it. But just like when you go to a school, if you accept a scholarship as a student, here's the difference between Johnny, who could be a phenomenal musician, or someone that goes to a school and they're an engineer, or there's something that they're really talented at. Like, that's their skill. That's their skill. They can go out while they're still a student in college and be able to profit off of what their skill set is.
For sure.
Before football, that wasn't the case. Now, certainly, yes, the money, it could be different, right? We'll use a guy like Hunter Rogers, for example. He's the long snapper. Is he going to get paid the same amount of money compared to a Juice Wells or Spencer Rattler? Certainly not. But that's just like the real world. You go out there, your value, depending on what your skill set is, what your talent is, it's going to generate more money. The beauty, though, for a guy like Hunter Rogers, though, the long snapper, who, by the way, had a phenomenal game last week, doesn't get talked about enough, some great tackles, and I
got his jersey. I have his jersey.
That a boy. But they do stuff like that, though, and they're able to get a couple bucks, like you said. Take your girlfriend out, on a date, instead of having to go to, the I don't want to knock like South Carolina's like cafeteria or whatever. I haven't really gone, but you know what I mean. You're able to go out there and live like a normal person because, yes, you are a student athlete. Yes, you did sign up for this, but at the same time, too, you're a freaking person. You're not a robot,
Well, I do think it's just going to be important. It's just we have to be, Texas coming in with Oklahoma coming in with Alabama. You're going to have to compete with those guys. And I'm not saying that, and we're also going to have to just coach them up. I know it sounds, but we've always had to do that. We're not always going to get the big guys, but I think that we just have to be. Have the ability to be competitive, and that doesn't mean I think that some folks are just going to still look at the best situation, and it's okay if we can't pay them as much as these guys can, or as long as we can keep it competitive to where we have enough of that, and that's where I say it's gonna come from a laundry list of things. It's gonna be more power in numbers maybe than we don't have T-Bone Pickens or what the guy we don't have Tito's from actually Tito's vodka for UT. It's just different, so we're gonna have to work on that. But I do feel like the guys the Garnet Trust and other guys out there are definitely working it. There's a Garnet Trust thing right there underneath there. I'm seeing it run underneath. So but I really appreciate everything they're doing. I appreciate you guys having me on here, and you're coming on Friday night, correct?
I am coming on Friday night. You can see it right there, the Toys for Tots. I'll zoom in a little bit because as I'm getting older, my eyesight's going. So maybe some people, depending on what devices they're watching it, found out, crazy stat, that about 25% of our subscribers or people that watch these GC Live shows actually watch it on their televisions. How about that? Crazy how you can get data like that. So, but for those of you who are squinting at your phone, what that says is the Midnight Choir. Patrick Davis and his Midnight Choir are going to be at the Senate for their 7th annual Thanksgiving weekend Toys for Tot event. That is Friday, the November 24th. If you get the VIP tickets, you have an opportunity to win that. Head on over to Gamecock Central. Get to mingle with a lot of people that go out to this. A lot of people that head on out to this. I mean, I don't know if you had a chance to talk to some of the people that are going to be there, Patrick. I know that we've seen our good friend, our mutual friend, one of my first colleagues in South Carolina, Corey Miller. I know Ryan Brewer's made it out in years past, and Steve Tannehill's come on out. Yeah. You don't know which former Gamecock will be out there, but I'm sure we'll see plenty of them.
With the game being in Columbia, it definitely helps. We do it regardless of where the game is, but it's always a little lighter when the game's in Clemson because folks go up to Clemson the night before. Yep. But this is kind of my way of getting home for Thanksgiving as well. I get to see the family. But yeah, there's a lot of Gamecocks out there, and my phone kind of blows up with these numbers that I don't actually know on Friday, and some of them are like old Gamecock guys that get my number through through Corey or I don't know if any of the Hoodie boys. I saw Darius 2 nights ago. We were together in Augusta. I forgot to even ask him. So you never know who might show up. It just depends on if they come in town on Friday night or not. So there's always a lot of good folks out, a lot of good Gamecocks, and we won 3 games in a row. So
right.
That's big news. I know we beat Kentucky. Was actually really big. I didn't think we were going to beat Kentucky, actually, to be honest. But we're in a good spot, and once again, just whoever's watching this, I'm sure most of you guys are going to go to the game. Just be loud and proud, and I think that will the Clemson guys. It's only human nature. They might buckle under a little bit of pressure. So keep it in their face.
You mentioned 3 wins, but I know to this fan base, they're thinking one thing comes Saturday, and that's being able to get 2 straight wins against Clemson. Patrick, appreciate you hopping on with us. Cannot wait to see you on Friday night, man. It's going to be awesome.
Intern, nice to meet you, brother.
Nice to meet you, big dog. Appreciate it.
Talk to y'all later.
Again, Patrick Davis and his Midnight Choir, they're going to be here this weekend. Head on over to the Senate. Catch him. Just an awesome event. And I always enjoy
awesome venue too. I love
Oh.
seeing shows at the Senate. It's one of the best in Columbia for live music. So
we're going to try to get things going, wrap things up probably in the next 15, 20 minutes. I'm going to head on over to Backstreet Grill to listen to what Shane Beamer has to say. Having said all of that, Joe, one of the things, as you see some of the comments coming in, we're going to get back into football talk here, but wanted to get that out there because it is an awesome, awesome, awesome event. You have a chance to be able to talk with so many Gamecocks, and then kind of the post-party kind of trickles on into Halls. I did not put this out the other night, and I know that it was low-hanging fruit if I did, but Mark Stoops was actually at Halls the other night. Maybe he had a couple cocktails too many the night before the game against USC. But having said that, I'm joking. Having said that, Patrick talked about the atmosphere, the energy inside of Williams-Brice Stadium. Yeah. And if there was you already know that you want that energy to be incredible because you're playing Clemson. If you win the game, you get to head to a bowl game. But on top of that, we found out today, our colleague at On3, Chad Simmons, put out that 4-star Gamecock target running back Daniel Hill will be in attendance for this weekend's game. Now, this is massive for so many reasons. If you remember at the beginning of the month, and we started to put this out, Intern Joe and I, we've been talking about this probably now, I'd say for the last month, saying that, okay, there's been reports by other recruiting insiders who've been doing this a hell of a lot longer. I don't have a crystal ball. I don't do any of the crystal ball. I know that's another outlet. I don't have any control of the RPM at On3. But what I have said multiple times, and Joe and I have talked about this, based on the things that I have been told, I really liked where South Carolina stood. And if I had a crystal ball vote, if I had some say in the RPM, I would be leaning heavily that Daniel Hill will be committing to South Carolina. Having said all that, they're 17, 18-year-old kids. Until something is actually in writing, it means nothing. But having said all that, what has took place over these last couple weeks? Well, let's take a couple steps back. Beginning of the month, Daniel Hill, a lot of hype surrounding about Alabama. We've talked about it before. His father would really like for him to stay close to home, which is Mississippi, would like for him to go to Alabama. That's been out there multiple times. Daniel Hill pushed back his commitment date, which was going to take place before the start of the football season. And I think a lot of people looked at as, man, South Carolina had a real good chance. This isn't happening now. What's going on? Is he going to go to Alabama? And the big thing was he just wanted to get on the same page as not only his father, but with his family as a whole. So now fast forward to the beginning of the month in November. Hill is expected to take an official visit at Alabama. Well, what takes place? Hill cancels his visit the night before. And at that point, to me, Joe, that told me, man, I really like what's going on here. And that's why I kept pushing it out there. I'm like, I'm telling you, South Carolina, especially based off of the things I'm being told, right? If I'm putting something out there, it's not because I'm just taking a guess. No. Just like Wes, Chris, we're being told certain things.
Yep.
So there were specific things that I was told. There were certain things that I've seen text messages. I'm telling you.
Everybody's hearing something, Mike.
Okay. But based on that made me feel really good. This news today, though, on top of the fact that Alabama looks like they're going to go after another running back, the timing of it, to me, is so perfect for USC. The fact that you've won these last 3 games, on top of it all, you have an opportunity to make that place as electric as it's been. We've seen in years past, but especially on Saturday. You do that with, oh, by the way, Dante Reno will be down there for an unofficial visit.
I'm going to bring up Dante too, yeah.
Dante's going to be down there. You're calling in. You're calling in the reliever from the bullpen, one of your best recruiters for this 2024 class when it comes to trying to get other prospects on board. You have this. I mean, not to be corny, but let's just, this is a perfect sandstorm. Yeah. So you have an opportunity to really, really send a positive message to Daniel Hill and give him that reason why he should be a Gamecock. So again, if there was any other reason why you wanted to go to this game this weekend, which you really don't need all these external reasons, it's South Carolina, Clemson, but this gives you that extra juice. My goodness, the timing could not be better for South Carolina, especially knowing that a win this weekend would do so much for their program because it gets them to a bowl game.
Yeah, Mike, that was super long-winded question or way to ask me about Daniel Hill. But yeah, I mean, I think, the momentum for South Carolina is looking really good for a guy like Daniel Hill in a position you've really struggled at a lot this year. To get a freshman like Daniel Hill in there as dynamic as he is, I think it's huge. And you'll have hopefully Mario Anderson returning. I know he's doing senior day, but he's probably going to come back. I would believe that's the plan. But yeah, I think, it's a very big opportunity for South Carolina to show, why you should be the school he chooses. I mean, and we've seen guys, Mike, to get you started on this too. We've seen guys that, Nick Harbor was at the Georgia game last year. So you don't necessarily have to win the game to sway a Daniel Hill. But what you do need is the atmosphere, and you need it to be like Kentucky. You need it to be just as good. The students section, the cockpit needs to do better. I heard what Shane said, but
you order a pizza?
I did not. I'll have to go tend to that. But go ahead.
No, keep going.
Well, no, that was pretty much all of my point there. I mean, South Carolina has its work left ahead of it. If they want to land Daniel Hill, they need Williams-Brice Stadium to be as good, if not better, than it was last week.
Intern Joe over here ordering pizzas during the show.
Yeah,
that was perfect.
Tommy's question real quick. Right now we have the friends and family order. I'm trying to get
Intern Joe's merch. I'm wearing it.
Yeah, I'm trying to get a link for everyone to be able to buy merch or something like that, or be able to, But so currently we had a friends and family mock-up, so I'm working on it. If you guys would buy some, hit me up, let me know, and I'll try to get some merch cooking here soon. Hopefully, in time for the holiday season. So I don't know. We'll see. But anyways, yeah. So Daniel Hill, and again, like I said, I think the biggest part about landing Daniel Hill is, his, not going to Bama, canceling the visit at Bama. I think it shows all intent, and everybody's hearing something, Mike. Me and you and I, we talked about this earlier. We mentioned this, but like we've heard things. Everyone's hearing things about Daniel Hill, and so obviously there's plenty of room for speculation. I think South Carolina is also in a good position. You just need to make this weekend great, and execute on this recruiting visit from front to back. Really, pull out all the stops, make Williams-Brice look great, and then winning the game would be a big plus too.
All right, let's get into the game. Let's get into the game and just talk about the importance of what they need to do to be able to win this. We'll have some keys come out later on in the week on Thursday. We do our weekly quick slants. Not going to have a show, though, on Thursday because it's Thanksgiving. I'll let you guys just watch football and stuff your face with food. Intern Joe and I pissing off the South by saying that it's stuffing. Oh, it gets people's gears going in the South. I love it. I love it.
Go take a nap. My family loves that somebody told me on Twitter to go take a nap.
Good. Wes, if you're watching, it's not dressing. I'm probably just pissing off half our viewers.
We love you guys, but it's stuffing. I'm sorry.
Stuffing. Anyway,
it is.
Look at you. Thank you, Gamecock retweeter.
He's the best for that reason.
having said all that, and all joking aside, defensively for South Carolina, we've talked about this over the last couple weeks. To me, one of the keys of this game, you need to be able to force a turnover. And I mentioned this stat last week, but I'm going to dig in just a little bit deeper. Okay, you damn Yankees, pimp on a blimp 89. But with this game, right? With Clemson's offense, the big thing to me, even though it's changed in terms of what they're trying to do from a play call standpoint, right? You have a new play caller. You have some different personnel back there. Being able to throw them off their rhythm by creating a turnover would be massive. Now, we would say this every week, but especially this week. I mentioned this stat last week. It's updated now, but then I'm going to throw another stat at you. South Carolina in the last 2 years at home, when they force at least one takeaway, they are 10-0. When they don't force at least one takeaway at home in that same time span, they're 0-3. Obviously, stats don't win you games, but a stat like that, it just goes to show you the importance of being able to force a takeaway. Having said all that, here's another stat for you. What South Carolina has done in their last 3 games compared to their first 8. In South Carolina's first 8 games of the season, they only forced 7 turnovers. In their last 3, they've forced 9. So when we look at the success South Carolina has had, and certainly the competition, maybe against Jacksonville State and Vandy, it wasn't up to par in comparison to Clemson, and what you're going to see, certainly, right? Or even last week against Kentucky. But having said all that, you can see the difference of what took place. Again, not to bring up PTSD from that Florida game, but you get a takeaway during Florida, you probably win that game. No question that if you stop them on 4th and 10, you execute the way that you're supposed to off the blitz, that they win that game by not losing contain. But if you get a takeaway in that game, you probably win that game. On the flip side of it, this past weekend against Kentucky, if Nick Eamon-Worry, who had an opportunity earlier in the game, right, drops an interception. Well, what does he do? He flushes it, comes back out there, and he makes, to me, arguably one of the biggest plays of the season by having that interception in the end zone. Because if you don't do that, Kentucky gets at least 3 points on that drive.
At least.
And to me, if they get that, the way the game's played is different, and I think Kentucky goes on to win that game. So I bring those things up just to show you the importance of being able to get takeaways, being opportunistic, something that South Carolina really struggled with for nearly a month, especially in that month of October. So doing that this weekend, Joe, to me is the biggest key, because if you can do that, you slow down the rhythm here. Clemson's going to get anxious, right? They're a team that likes to use their speed on the outside. Shipley's been playing really well these last couple of weeks. Klubnik's been playing really well these last couple of weeks. But if you do that, I feel like what will happen is Clemson's going to get anxious and they're going to want to take some shots down the field. And that's when you can really disrupt the rhythm and create more turnovers.
Yeah, I know a lot about Clemson this year because my roommate back in Columbia is from Clemson, knows a lot about the Clemson Tigers. So I've been following them pretty much every week. I've been getting a Clemson update, which isn't the most fun at times. Shout out to my roommate. But I mean, Clemson's a very similar team to South Carolina at the moment, right? They're coming off a lot of big wins, a large portion of those coming at home. Dabo's got his guys playing well after the whole Tyler from Spartanburg thing. Whether it was planted or not, I'm not sure. I mean, I don't necessarily buy into all those conspiracy theories, but I mean, 2 really similar teams, both, finding their identity offensively, and then their defense is also stepping up as well. I think South Carolina's offense is, at least on the perimeter between Spencer and Xavier Luedecke, is a little bit better than Clemson's, but then also Klubnik and Shipley are also really, really dynamic. Clemson's got a really young group of receivers, so it'll be an interesting matchup with South Carolina's secondary. But I think what this game is going to come down to for South Carolina's defense is stopping Shipley in the run. If you can kind of get some pressure on Cade Klubnik, I don't think he's done that well against pressure all year. And we've seen it just in his past, doesn't do well against the blitz. So, I mean, it's put up or shut up time for the South Carolina football team. I think it's finally arrived for this 2023 campaign, and you need to do the things that you haven't been doing well these last couple of weeks. You need to get pressure. You need to stop the run if you're going to win this game. And then offensively, you need to convert on 3rd down. I think that's going to be the biggest thing for this offense. It's not going to be the big play battle. Obviously, if you're South Carolina, you want to convert on more of them because you thrive off of those, but it's 3rd down. I mean, if you can convert a big 3rd down on a drive, I think that goes further than, a 12-yard or whatever explosive play, if you will. Momentum is going to be a big thing in this game, and it's, whoever can grab it and hold on to it for 4 quarters is going to win this football game.
We're going to try to extend the show just a little bit longer. I say we were going to get off probably around this time, but we might have a last-minute special guest. I don't want to say who it is just in case they're not able to hop on, but they just messaged me they're going to come on in 5. All right, we're going to have a special guest in 5 minutes that's going to be hopping on with us. Special guest joining GC Live shortly, and we'll only talk to them for just a little bit, but they were watching the show, and I asked them, I said, hey, you want to hop on with us? And they said, all right, give me a couple minutes. So special guest coming up in 5 minutes. The other thing too, Joe, about this game, when I look at it, let's look at the opposite side now. This front for Clemson is very, very talented. And it seems like when we talk about Clemson defensively for the last, I'd say almost decade now, even when their defense isn't phenomenal, their front 7 usually is. Their front seven usually is. And when you have a good front seven, it can clean some things up in the secondary. Now, I think Nate Wiggins is a talented defensive back. All right, we can sit here, we can downplay things. He's a talented defensive back. Can he contain Xavier Legette for the entire game? I don't know if he's going to be able to do that, but I don't think he necessarily has to. I think if you put Nate on him one-on-one, I think Nate will win some, but I truly believe that Xavier Legette at some point, if you just put him in one-on-one matchups, Legette will break free. That's why I think, just like we've seen with multiple teams, especially with Kentucky last week, for the majority of the game, they double-teamed Legette. That's what you have to do. You have to double-team him, even if you have a very good corner like Nate Wiggins. So I bring that up because if you have those one-on-one matchups, you're going to take your shot with Legette. Because with Rattler to Legette, I don't care who the corner is. I don't care. To me, that's a 70-30 ball, 70% in favor of Legette, right? And as we know, as a defensive back, it is not easy. It is not easy to be a defensive back because you can stop a guy 9 times out of 10. You get burned that one time, that's what all people are going to remember, right? So, again, I think Nate Wiggins, it'll be a fun matchup to watch if you're a football fan. And again, just trying to look at it, take the Gamecock glasses off, just looking at it as Team A, Team B. That will be a fun matchup watching those two. I still think Clemson will have to double team him because if they don't, Legette will break free at points. But having said all that, other players certainly will have to step up. But where I look at it as the biggest concern that I have this weekend is Clemson's front going up against USC's front. In an extension of that is South Carolina's running back room. To carry on Joyner, based on what we heard from Beamer today, he's going to do everything he can to get suited up to play this weekend. How much are you going to get from DK? Because to me, what it sounds like is, okay, Mario Anderson's going to be your workhorse, which we are expecting. But on top of that, you're probably going to have guys like DJ Braswell, probably going to have guys like Twitty and Dunn that are going to serve as complementary running backs back there to provide depth. And it's not about the production. When we're talking about production, it's not just about running the football. It's about also being able to make an impact in the pass game, right? Pass pro. Braswell did some really good things, especially on that touchdown pass. So even if South Carolina's offensive line has a good game this weekend, which is a very, very tough task, and they struggled a little bit last week, and the competition gets better this week, you also need a very, very talented running back room this weekend as far as pass protection. And when we're talking about running backs, one guy that we've been talking about a lot that will hopefully commit to the Gamecocks is Daniel Hill. And a guy that will hopefully be able to help close that deal is another Gamecock prospect, a Gamecock commit that will be there. And that's our special guest, Dante Reno, hopping on with us. Dante, how you doing?
Boy.
I'm great. How are you guys?
All right, before we get into things, we're not going to hold you up that long. We appreciate you hopping on at the last minute. Two things. One, congratulations on winning your state title. Awesome stuff. Way to end your high school career. Number two, congratulations to your dad for winning the Ivy League title, despite the fact of myself, Wes Mitchell, and some of the other colleagues picking Harvard this week.
Clear in the air, Mike.
Intern Joe picked Yale by $1 billion. Do you have any comments for either one of us? I know you're very happy with Intern Joe.
Yeah. Oh,
yeah, obviously, Joe. I mean, Joe knows what's up.
Of course. Dante, I got you.
They should have won by $1 billion. They blocked 2 punts inside the 5 and didn't score on either of them. But it was a good game, and obviously, Mike, not to bet on against the Bulldogs next time. So.
Well, you know what? I learned my lesson, and it was awesome. It was an awesome game. I was watching it. I love the rivalry. I'm not just saying that. It was a great finish, and certainly one of those rivalry games I would highly recommend to people to go to if you have the chance, whether it be up in Harvard, whether it be at Yale. Awesome stuff. If you go to Yale, though, you have a chance to go check out all the amazing pizza in New Haven, though. But that's a different story for another day. Having said all that, Dante, big opportunity for the Gamecocks this week, and they've won 3 in a row. So there's a lot at stake here. For you, I know we've talked about it before in the past, that you would like to be able to participate in some of these bowl practices if they were to go there. So they need a win in order to get that on the table. But not only is this game big because it's the in-state rivalry game that everyone talks about year-round, the bowl opportunity that it could lead to, but on top of that, you have Daniel Hill in town this weekend. You're going to be here too. I know that yourself, other Gamecock commits have stayed on him religiously. How are you feeling? How are you feeling as you come down here this weekend? And I know there's going to be some other Gamecock commits down here as well. How are you guys feeling as far as trying to get Hill to come on home and be a Gamecock?
Yeah, I think we're all feeling pretty great. I talk to Daniel every week, if not 4 or 5 times a week, just texting him. Like today was his birthday, and happy birthday, Daniel, if he ends up seeing this. But I mean, we text him. I tweeted at him today, tweeted at him again last week. I mean, we all feel great. He's been great with all of us. We've been recruiting him for maybe a year now, since last summer. So he's gotten to know all of the commits well. He knows the O-line really well, and he knows who's going to be blocking for him and who's going to be handing the ball off to him. He loves Coach Loggins. He loves Coach Beamer. So I think we have a really good shot this weekend. He's going to love the game too.
You had an opportunity to watch it from at home last weekend. And we hear so much about these recruits, including yourself, about the atmosphere when they come down here, especially at night. I say that because there's no secret that this weekend could be something that we haven't seen in quite some time just because of everything that is together, right? The fact that this is the rivalry game on top of the fact that there's a lot on the line in terms of being able to make it to a bowl game. From a recruiting standpoint, how massive is that? Or I think the fans hear it like even a couple weeks ago, it wasn't a packed stadium, but it was so loud despite the weather. And Beamer's out here on Tuesday, and I think some fans rolled their eyes a little bit when he said, hey, I had a recruit in my office the next day saying how incredible the atmosphere was. Like, how much of an impact does that truly make? And is that something when you talk to not just guys like Daniel Hill, not just guys like Daniel Hill, but other prospects, how much of that do they bring up?
I think it's huge. It's kind of like the old saying, like, be where your feet are. And when you're in that situation, you're in that stadium, and you hear the fans, you hear the roar, and you see how passionate the fans are. It's everything you want. Like people always say, everything's bigger and better in the SEC, and people care more. So I think as a recruit, you really want to see that. And especially like you said, like everything that's at stake this weekend, just for Daniel to see that and the rest of the recruits to see that, it's going to be huge. It's going to be huge for him.
Yes, Big Red. Dante will be down here this weekend. I think you're actually spending Thanksgiving down here with your family, correct?
Yeah, we are. We fly in Thursday morning.
This is gonna be an awesome game. Just real quickly, and we'll let you get going. Appreciate you hopping on. High school football, your career's done, which is kind of probably weird for you to even say and think of. As excited as you are to play at that next level, what are these next couple weeks like for you? Obviously, not knowing if South Carolina is going to a bowl game quite yet, but I bring that up because what are you doing right now? Because I know that you'll be enrolling early come January.
Yeah, so right now it's like kind of giving myself off like 3 or 4 days, and then we'll go down to South Carolina, and then I'll start training again that Sunday we come back. So I'll train up until the All-American game, and the All-American game is December 29th to the January 4th, something like that. So I'll have like a good month and a half block of training before I enroll. So hopefully all goes well this weekend, and we can play in the bowl practices and all that stuff too. But that's kind of like what the next couple months looks like.
I'm excited to watch in the All-America game. I mean, obviously during Christmas break, it was one of my favorite things to do. So now that I have somebody to kind of root for and be like, hey, like point at the TV, I'm excited to watch in that game.
Yeah, appreciate it. There'll be a lot of Gamecocks in that one. I think Cam's playing in it too.
Yep.
Yeah.
Wendell Gregory's also in it too, so it'll be fun.
Yeah. I'm trying to think the Under Armour one. No, this is the I'm trying to remember which one Fred Johnson's playing in.
Yep. No, he's in the Adidas one.
I can't keep up. There's so many friggin' bowl games for these senior games, but they're awesome regardless. If you get an opportunity to play in any of them, but especially the one you're playing in, it'll be very special. Well, Dante, safe travels down here. Enjoy Thanksgiving. Enjoy the game on Saturday, and I'll give you one last opportunity. What's just your message to the Gamecock fans as they get ready to try to create a rowdy atmosphere for not just home field advantage, but to send a message to Daniel Hill?
Yeah, I mean, if you see him or see us, see me, I'll be with him the whole day. So come up and say hi. Do whatever you got to do. I mean, he's going to be great. He's going to be having a great time with him and his family. So whatever we got to do to get him here, we're going to do it. So.
Awesome, man. Well, again, safe travels down there. Tell your dad that we're a bunch of ham bones for doubting the Bulldogs. But
Bulldogs.
Intern Joe knows ball.
Yeah.
Always. Thanks, guys.
Oh, also, hey, is it stuffing or dressing? Just so you can piss off some people down here already. I mean, these people probably love you.
Stuffing or dressing?
What do you call it?
Oh, dressing.
You call it dressing?
Hold on. No, you saying what do I like better?
Stuffing. No,
Stuffing and Thanksgiving stuffing.
Yeah.
Thank you. All right. Again, you just pissed off some fans who have probably loved you since day one. Great. Thank you. But we needed that, though. We Northerners, we're trying to stick together here.
Like the dressing's like not. No.
Yeah.
That a boy. And then what goes on your pasta? That's gravy.
That gravy all the time.
There we go. Nice Italian guy right there. How you doing? How's your mother? There we go. All right, Dante Reno. Appreciate you, buddy. Safe travels down here.
All right. Bye.
Dante Reno joining us.
Man,
at the last minute.
The boy.
How about that? You like that for a surprise for you, Joe?
Oh yeah, it was always good. He's the man. Appreciate him. Seeing that we were live and hopping on. I like it when guests just randomly decide to pop on. Keeps things exciting around here. So, and I'm glad he's on the stuffing train. Make sure everyone's got the.
All right. Final thoughts because Beamer's about to start up. Final thoughts though on this matchup.
On the matchup, I mean, South Carolina seems ready. Both teams really seem ready to play this one. It's going to be a 4-quarter dogfight. It's going to be about, who can keep their wits about them, right? This is the pinnacle of the season. It's go big or go home, win or go home. It's your work is left in front of you, and this is the biggest test of the season, hands down. Do you want to win a rivalry game at home, kind of break losing, there isn't a streak yet, but prevent a streak from happening of losing to your arch rival at home? Or do you want to go out on top? It's put up or shut up time. This defense needs to make a big stand. And everyone needs to be bought in completely if they want to win this one. I think they certainly can do that. To me, I think it's anybody's game at this point. It's a toss-up, Mike. Really is a toss-up.
The last 2 weeks, defense and special teams, they have really stepped up, especially special teams last week. They're coming off their best performance defensively. To me, last week was their best performance. I know it was Ben Dope break. I know some people, it drives them a little nuts at times, but you only allow 14 points in a game where your offense for the first time all season at home struggled to do anything. Really struggled to do anything outside of that first quarter. And then, of course, they were able to find a way to score the touchdown at the end of the game. But offensively, you really struggled to a point. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, the second quarter and third quarter combined, this is how bad it was. I actually went back and looked at this because I couldn't believe it. Second and third quarter combined against Kentucky, South Carolina only had 30 yards of total offense. Think about that. 30 yards of total offense. So your defense, you needed them unlike ever before this season. And they were able to step up. So now what you're hoping for is you carry that momentum. Having said all that, you're also hoping that your offense bounces back and they're able to have a type of game where they're playing better than they have all season. Because like Spencer Rattler said today, he remembers that feeling last year. He's been hearing about it going back to the summer he mentioned, how people were coming up saying, hey, that win made my whole year. And he wants to be able to give this fan base that same feeling. But he also knows, as he alluded to today, they have to play their best football. They have to play their best football. Each week over this 3-game winning streak, Jacksonville State to Vanderbilt, and one could argue that maybe Jacksonville State was playing better football than Vandy. But Jacksonville State to Vandy to Kentucky, the competition has got better and better each week. Now you're going up against Clemson, a Clemson team who, yes, they had a rocky part of their season in mid-October, but these last couple of weeks, especially since the Tyler from Spartanburg saga, they've really been able to start playing some of their best football. So now you have two teams playing their best football all year. What's going to happen? What's going to show up? And like I've said before in the past, USC and majority of this fan base knows exactly what I'm saying. South Carolina in the past, not just under Beamer, but going back to the Muschamp age, going back towards the end of the Spurrier era, every time they give you hope, they come right out the next week and they just kick you right in the groin. They didn't do that last week. They found a way to get it done. Now, it wasn't pretty, but they found a way to get it done. Are they going to kick you in the groin this week? Or are they going to come out there playing some of their best football like they did last year, right? You think about the Tennessee game. You think about the Clemson game last year. What did they do in that game? What are they doing these last couple weeks? They're forcing turnovers. They're doing good things on special teams. They're starting to do things that this team really struggled with for the majority of the season, for a good portion of the season, especially in October. That's what I'm looking at more than anything. If you missed any of our program, head on over to the Gamecock Central YouTube page where you can watch this show in its entirety. Or if you're a podcast listener, head on over to the Gamecock Central Podcast Network. And as always, these shows are brought to you by our good friends. The first one is Clint Hammond of the Movement Mortgage Network. If you're in the process of purchasing a home or you're looking to get the best rate, trying to find that lowest rate out there, give Clint and his team a call the same way that our very own Wes Mitchell and his wife did when they were in the market for looking for a home, or as well as former Gamecock quarterback and captain Perry Orth and his wife Shannon. That number is 803-771-6933. Let Clint Hammond know that Gamecock Central sent you. And Joe, today's show is also brought to you by our good friends over at Liberty Tax.
Yeah, Mike, as always, our good friends over at Liberty Tax. Tax items that uncertain feeling you get right before doing your taxes, but you don't have to go through it alone. Tax team at Liberty Tax in Irmo, Lexington, and Columbia will walk you through the process, clear up any confusion, and guarantee you'll get the biggest possible refund or your money back. It's tax time. If you're in a hurry for your refund, call on the tax team at Liberty Tax. Fast, accurate, and guaranteed. If you're on the other hand, if you think you might be owing Uncle Sam, talk to the Liberty Tax team to make sure you're not paying more than you should owe. They'll find every possible deduction for you, locally owned and operated. Staffed by tax professionals from your neighborhood. Open 9 to 9 on weekdays and 9 to 5 on Saturdays with multiple service options. Start through the Liberty Tax mobile app or through the desktop portal. Make an appointment or just walk in. Give a call to upload tax documents. And when you come in, your return will be ready to review and sign. Give them a call on your screen right now, 803-462-5576. Once again, 803-462-5576.
All right, folks. That's going to do it for us. Appreciate you tuning in. Joe, is that your doorbell again?
It's not my doorbell, Mike.
Joe's ordering
pizza.
Joe's ordering pizza over here, with the doorbell going off. There it is again. Go get the doorbell, Joe. We're going to wrap things up so you can get that pizza. Appreciate everyone that tuned in today. We'll do it again on Saturday. No GC Live show this Thursday. Enjoy your Thanksgiving. Enjoy your time with your loved ones. If you're coming out to the concert on Friday night at the Senate, come on over. Say hello. I believe, talking to Wes and Chris, they might be there as well. So come on over. Say hello to the GC crew. And Saturday, get loud. Get there early. We didn't really talk much about it, but former President Donald Trump will be there. So I can only imagine that security will be a little tighter this weekend. It'll be a little bit longer to get into the game, because I bring that up because it's senior day too. So Shane Beamer mentioned to get into your seats around 7:10, but just keep that in mind that it might take you a little bit longer. That's just a hunch. That hasn't been a message sent out by USC, but the former president in there, you can only imagine what security will be like. Once again, everyone, enjoy your Thanksgiving. We'll see you Saturday at the game. And Big Red says, where can we hear Carolina calls? 107.5 the game, Big Red. 107.5 the game. And Tommy Lucas says it's dressing. No. When I say past the dressing, I'm talking about the salad dressing.
That's crazy, Tommy. That's a wild.
Oh, we're going to piss off so many people. Hey, we love you guys. We love you. Again, have a great Thanksgiving. Enjoy the game Saturday night. We will catch you on the GC Live post-game show immediately after the South Carolina looks to take the 120th edition of the Palmetto Bowl. And more importantly, for Gamecock fans, their second straight one in